Hi everybody, it's Leanne. I'm going to talk about the problems for section 3. So this is chapter 4, section 3 or 4.3. You were assigned numbers 2, 3, 4, 10, and 14. So let's get to it. All right, so in number 2, we had to really analyze Amy's explanation. And so remember that this section of the chapter was all about the commutative property. And so in Amy's explanation, she's talking about not the commutative property, all the properties of multiplication. So in this problem, Amy's talking about the commutative property. And so you had to discuss why her explanation is not complete, and then explain why the commutative property is a valid way of viewing arrays in 2 ways. All right, so there are lots of problems in this section. All right, so Amy's explanation is incomplete because even though she describes a pattern, she doesn't say why the pattern exists. So in her example, she's talking about what she notices, that 6 times 8 is the same as 8 times 6, but she doesn't talk about why that pattern exists. And so we know that for any whole numbers, a and b, that we can imagine that a rectangle is a units long and b units wide, right? And so then, and that works for any whole numbers. And so that we can see that a times b square units will always be the total area of that rectangle. And so simply by thinking of the shape as being made up of b columns with like a squares, or b units with a units in each column, we can always see that b times a can be looked at as a times b. So we know that a times b is equal to b times a. All right, and so that columns example is an application of the array example of multiplication. All right, and then we also did number 3 and 4. So in number 3, we had to use the definition of multiplication to explain why it makes sense to multiply 4 times 6 to determine the area of a 4 by 6 rug in square feet. So you could view the shape as being made up of 4 rows, where each row has 6 square feet. And so simply by the definition of multiplication, this would be 4 times 6 square feet in total. 4 rows, that's our number of groups, sorry. And then 6 is the number in each group. All right, then in number 4, you had to use the definition of multiplication to explain why a box that is 5 inches high, 4 inches wide, and 3 inches long has a volume of 5 times the quantity 3 times 4, and then explain the parentheses. So this is a great problem, I think, because it really gets you thinking about how multiplication works in our standard method for finding the volume of a rectangular prism. So if we go to thinking about this rectangular solid, we kind of have to imagine it. Maybe I'll draw it here. 5 inches tall. Ooh, so my drawing is bad here. Let's fix that. Okay, so 5 inches tall, 4 inches wide, and 3 inches long. So, of course, if you're thinking, well, that's not how I drew it, that's okay. You can turn this on its side. You can turn it on its top. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be the same rectangular solid. And so if it's 5 inches tall, 4 inches wide, and 3 inches long, I think I even wrote those different this time, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. We have to imagine splitting the shape into layers, because the layers are the height. And this strategy really helps kids kind of understand how volume works. And so if you think of it as how many cubes will fit on one layer, we can see that 4 times 3 is the number of cubes that will fit on one layer. You see that? And so that's 12 cubes will fit on one layer. And then the 5 tells us how many layers we have. And so by definition of multiplication, it's going to be 5 times the quantity 4 times 3, because it's 5 layers, and the 5 tells us how many groups there are, and in each group there are 4 times 3 total cubes. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. You also did number 10 in this section. So you had to explain how the associative property of multiplication works to help us make 16 times 25 easier to calculate mentally. These properties are wonderful for practicing mental mental math. So then you had to write equations to show why your method is valid. Notice that in the problem, in the text, it shows you that you are to set this up in this way. It's just helping you think through the steps mentally. So 16 times 25, you're going to write some expression, then you're going to write another expression, then you're going to write another expression. So try to set it up this way. Really, again, that's just a practice of your mental processes. So let's go down to number 10. 16 times 25. So I thought of the 16 here as 4 times 4, and then multiplied times 25. Now I'm using the associative property because I'm going to associate this 4 here with this 25. And that's why I'm showing that in the next step, 4 times, and then associate that 4 times 25. This makes it easier to multiply mentally because now I know that 4 times 25, of course, is 100, and I'm just multiplying 100 times 4 to get 400. You're doing something similar in number 14, where you are asked to do the same thing, essentially, for 5 times 22. So Carmen says it's easy to multiply even numbers by 5 because you can just half the number and put a 0 on the end. So she's talking about the double half method, which is such a great method. And then you had to write the equations that incorporate her method that demonstrate that. Okay, so let's get down to number 14. So 5 times 22 over here. Now we're going to think of 5 as 10 times a half, so that will help us to associate then the half with the 22. So see how I did that? So essentially what I'm doing is doubling the 5 and then halving the 22. So I end up with 10 times half of 22. And 5s work great for this because you can easily double the 5 and get a number that ends in 0, of course. So it's super handy. So any number that ends in 5 is really great for double half strategy. So now that I'm associating the half with the 22, I end up with this really nice problem that I can calculate mentally, 10 times 11 or 110. All right, so that is it for section 4.3. We did not do any problems for 4.2, so I'm hoping that this was helpful. Thanks for listening.